It's day 18, I think, pretty sure. And yesterday I must have left my charging cable at the last place, so I don't have a phone charger at the moment. So I'm gonna have to stop and find one on the way because I kind of need that. But we'll see. It's kind of annoying. That was my bad. Oh well. But yeah, just another day of walking. It's sunny today, so that's kind of nice. But I'll just keep going. Bom dia. Here's the stone bridge. It was built in 1795. And I guess this is where the local militia inflicted a wound on Napoleon's armies during the War of Independence. So, pretty cool bridge. Terrifying to cross. My hike today has been mostly through the woods, which has been lovely. It's shady, you hear the sounds of the forest. This particular stretch has been quite quiet, so I've had solitude. People have come up, but it's definitely not as much as earlier today. Did have to hike a mountain, but again, the path was all through the woods, and quite lovely, kind of meandered up the hill and then back down. So it's been a lovely day. Oh, here come some people. I did stop and have a sandwich at a little cafe and learned that caliente means hot. Didn't know that. Let these people pass. You can see that there are quite a few pilgrims along the path, but yeah, so here in Spain, I have struggled with the language a little bit more, which has forced me to learn to communicate differently, which, you know, that's where you grow. But there have been a lot more hand gestures than when I was in Portugal. The people in Portugal, most of them did speak a little bit of English, and so I could communicate fairly easily. But here in Spain, they don't really speak hardly any English. But a lot of hand gestures, you know, like to eat. So yeah, and then, you know, she gave me some options. I had heard the word caliente before, so I just said that. I didn't actually know what it meant, but I didn't know, I'd never heard the other word before, so I just went with what sounded familiar. But it was actually really good. I was very pleased. It was like a bacon sandwich, but it wasn't like the bacon that I'm used to. It looked more like turkey bacon, but it wasn't. It was pork bacon, but it was delicious. It reminded me of the sandwiches at a little place. It's not little anymore. At a restaurant in Salt Lake called Toasters. It didn't have the balsamic vinegar on it, but everything else was very, very similar to Toasters. It was very good, and it was only like €3. I don't understand why the food is so cheap here, but I'm grateful. It's been very nice for me to have it be that cheap. So yeah, that's been my day. I still haven't figured out where to get a battery or like a phone charger. Because the supermarkets are really more like convenience stores with some fruits and vegetables and some produce. They don't have things like wall adapters and stuff. So I'm gonna have to find either a bigger supermarket or some kind of an electronics store, hardware store or something in order to find something. But I was hoping when I got to my hotel that they would be able to point me in the right direction. So anyway, I just thought I would take a second to post an update and show you that what the path has been like for most of the day. It has really been this path along this river. Reminds me a lot of my walks in Vermont, a lot like my walks in Vermont. So it has been a welcome relief to the heat. And the other thing I was going to mention is here in Spain versus in Portugal is that there have been no cobblestones here, which is really nice because those are really, really hard on your feet. But anyway, that's all for me. I will check back later. I'm in my hotel room, which is the smallest hotel room I've ever stayed in, but it has everything I need, which is a bed and a bathroom, and that's enough for me. But this is the thing that I thought was really, really strange is why is there an ashtray next to the no smoking sign? Like, what am I missing? I just thought that was a really strange thing to do. Anyway, I'm here in Ponteverde, I believe is how you pronounce it. I still haven't found a phone charger. The lady at the front desk clearly only speaks enough English to get me up to my room, but anything beyond that, she was just like, I don't know. So I had to go figure out where to buy a phone charger. I have a couple of hours before the sing-along thing, but my ADD and my time blindness makes those things very difficult. So I'm trying really hard to like figure out how much time I really do have and how much time I'm really going to take. But I probably am going to just end up staying in the hotel room just so I don't miss it, because I just don't know how to gauge time. So anyway, I'm going to shower and take a nap and then hang out until the sing-along. So we'll see what happens. Also, today is Sunday and a lot of stores are closed in Spain on Sunday. There's actually very few things that are open. So I might actually have a better chance of finding a phone charger in the morning anyway. So we'll see. I will check in later. I did use the entire side of, or front side of my Pilgrim's passport last night. Was the last stamp on it. And so I've had to switch over to the other side today. And I will say that this Pilgrim's passport has quickly become one of my most valued possessions, but I thought I would quickly show you all of my stamps. From all the different places that I've stayed. Some of them are places that are restaurants that I went to. Some are just random people that were on the side of the road that were offering stamps. I did get one earlier today that was just an open church. Church is a little bit of a stretch. It was basically just a cinder block. Like, I don't, it probably was like 5 by 5. It was about as big as my hotel room. And it had like 2 pews in it, but they had a stamp in there so that you could stamp a passport. So yeah, anyway, here's my pilgrimage passport of all the destinations along the way. And yeah, this is one of my most prized possessions at this moment in time. So my stats for today are, I got 20,000 steps. This hotel I'm staying at was 49 euros, so a little bit more expensive than what I have been paying, but I knew that. And then tomorrow I have I basically have the full stage to do. So it's about 12 miles, I think, to my next hostel. So a big day tomorrow. So, but after I got done with the sing-along, I kind of wandered around outside just to see what was around me. And right around the corner from where I'm staying is kind of like this big open shopping area. And there are plenty of like phone stores and Apple stores and stuff. So I think tomorrow morning when they start opening up, I'll be able to go and get a charger for my phone and without an issue. I think there was one just right around the corner. But as I was sitting there watching or like eating my dinner, I was watching the birds around this like little fountain that's there, and there were seagulls and pigeons all over. And it looked like this one seagull kind of like flew in, and then it looked like it almost dropped this pigeon on the ground. And I was like, oh, that's weird. That couldn't possibly be what happened. And I kind of watched this pigeon for a second. And then it was kind of acting a little abnormally just because it was right around people and it wasn't trying to like leave being under people's foot. It was like still in the middle of this group of people, which is kind of abnormal for pigeons. Usually they'll get out of the way if you walk past them or whatever, they'll move around you, but this one wasn't. And then it walked over toward the buildings, and then all of a sudden the seagull came back and swooped down and grabbed onto it and was just like carrying it around. And this man walked by and saw what was happening, and just the man's presence made the seagull drop the pigeon, and it kind of wandered around. And the man noticed what was going on, and so he got off the phone, and he just stood there and sort of protected this pigeon from the seagull for probably a good 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, it was a long time that he was just standing there, and finally the seagull flew off, and the man stayed there for quite a while to make sure that the seagull didn't come back. And I couldn't really see the pigeon. It was obscured from my view. And so I don't know if it was hurt or what, but I eventually did see a pigeon fly off. I don't know if it was the same one or not, or whatever, and he did walk away. But I just thought it was an interesting experience to watch this seagull take down this pigeon like that. I mean, you see pigeons and seagulls together all the time, so I don't know why this one seagull had this vendetta against this pigeon, but good thing that man was there to stop the seagull from attacking the pigeon. So I thought it was just an interesting thing that happened, just kind of as I was sitting there watching. The other thing I was kind of thinking about is, a few days ago I made a comment about how I didn't know what to expect when I came to like Spain or Portugal, or because I'd never really left the country before, and I just had no idea what to expect. And I was thinking about it as I was watching, looking around the stores and looking at everybody, and everybody's dressed in very American clothes, jeans and t-shirts. A lot of them are even like American t-shirts, Puma, Nike, and name brand things. And all the stores are all very, very Americanized, and it made me think about how America really is kind of the capital of materialism. But I thought, if I had come to these places 50 or 100 years ago, there probably would have been a greater diversity between the culture that I came from and here. Like the clothing probably would have been a little bit different. There probably would have been etiquette things that were different. But since the internet, since TV and movies and Hollywood, it does seem that like we're all kind of just coming together and doing the same thing kind of globally. And so there really isn't a huge, like, stark difference between, you know, other than the language. But, you know, there were hamburger shops, like, you know, like every street had a hamburger shop, and, you know, they have ice cream shops, and, like, I mean, they're just normal American type stores and clothing, and it really isn't that different here than in America. And I was just thinking about how the globalization of society and culture through the internet and through social media and through Hollywood and how it really isn't that different. But then I was thinking also that, you know, when I get to India, I bet I will see a bigger shift in the differences in culture. Definitely the differences in food. But I bet things will be quite a bit different. Yeah, I said that right. Between what I'm used to, Western civilization, and India. And it made me think about the first night, that first albergue I stayed in, and I talked to that Hindu monk, and we were talking about, you know, the spiritual aspects of the journey, and he made a comment about, you know, 20 years ago is sort of when I don't know if it was like a treaty or an embargo or whatever, that American culture was allowed into India. And ever since then, India has started moving toward more the Western civilization and materialism and that type of thing. And the Western culture has started to become a little bit more spiritual and has started opening up to these spiritual concepts. And it's like the roles are shifting from the Eastern cultures to the Western cultures, just as it has opened up. And now, you know, our Western society, there's a huge shift in perspective in the Western cultures that we are becoming more spiritual. And I think largely COVID has brought a lot of that on. It's people were forced into introversion and forced into isolation. It has really made them appreciate what's really important in their lives. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting perspective that he had, that you know, India, which is sort of known for being the capital of spiritualism and Hinduism, and, you know, Rishikesh, where I'm going, is where yoga was created, which is why there's basically nothing but yoga studios there. But, you know, that they started this whole yoga movement and have always kind of been this capital of spiritualism, and like Nepal and all these places that are known for being incredibly spiritual have started to like shift into like this materialistic world, and Western society, which is always known to be materialistic, is kind of starting to shift into the more spiritual thing, or spiritual world. And so it was just a different perspective to have from him. And as I was sitting there thinking about how you know, the internet and social media and stuff has kind of globalized the American culture, I am really curious as to what my experiences in India and even in Indonesia, I don't know, I can't talk today, are going to be, because I do suspect that they will probably be quite a bit different from the cultures that I'm used to. And I'm really glad that I've been able to kind of have this different perspective, and I didn't just go straight to India and have a completely different world, that I've been able to see, you know, spend some time in Europe and see all the similarities, to Europe and America, and then moving into India. So I just thought it was a different, you know, perspective, and I was just thinking about it at dinner. But that's kind of all for me. I do have a big day tomorrow. As I mentioned, I have the full stage, like nearly the full stage to do. So I'm going to kind of spend the rest of the evening stretching and making sure that my muscles are ready to go. And then I probably will get a late start tomorrow just because I have to wait for some stores to open up to make sure I can get a phone charger before I head out into the wilderness. But from reading the guidebook, the walk should be mostly through woodlands and that, you know, kind of these more nature-like paths. So that's kind of nice. I do have a mountain to climb, but I don't think it's even as steep as the mountain I climbed today. So anyway, that's all for me. Bien Camino.